Dynamite download.
It's Tay Conti versus Red Velvet. Do we have a clean sweep? The first ever All Elite Dynamite download. Do we have it?
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, but it's a hard delete for me. You cannot call this an elite. Come on. Okay, so not to be overly critical, and like I've said before, I'm waiting to be blown away by the women's division. Blown away by the women's division. But this match did have some good. It was better than the women's division matches I've seen in the past. I'm glad to see Tay.
Was it?
It was better. It wasn't good. I think she has some good potential. It just seemed like they were just going through the moves just to kind of kill time on the card. So it really didn't do much for me. There wasn't that much storytelling, except the minor little thing between Anna Jay and her. And then once again, just the picture-in-picture, can either suck the air out of the match or it can keep you waiting and watching a soundless picture. So it's a hard delete for me with no true story to it, and it just seemed too choreographed. What do you think? You cannot tell me this is an elite.
No, I mean, as much as I'd like to be the contrarian, I can't in good conscience give this an elite. I will say Tay Conti and Anna Jay are a nice pairing.
Yes.
I think that's a good duo, and I think that their natural play of good and evil that those two have going on, where Anna's kind of trying to tempt Tay into joining the dark side. That's interesting. But
you're lost for words.
Red Velvet going into the match at 2-11, it doesn't give you a lot of intrigue going for the match, and I know that what they're trying to do with having her paired up with Brandi, maybe this leads to, I know Anna Jay and Brandi have had a long-standing feud going on. I don't know where this goes. I didn't really understand where it was placed on the card. I didn't understand.
Right.
It sucks because I feel like AEW is in a bad spot with the women's division.
Right.
The show has gotten so, now we're over a year in, and the show's gotten so well developed. All the divisions are so well developed, except for the women's division. It's like the women's division has fallen so far behind the rest of the other divisions that it's really a tough problem to solve right now, given that they only have such a limited time on television and they have a very limited roster.
I don't know why they aren't just getting the core women over. You're talking Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, Sheeta, like just feature them every week, and just as long as you develop the interest in the division, it'll grow naturally. And you're just randomly placing these random matches throughout, obviously like Thunder Rosa and Serena Deep, like, take 5 or 6 and just constantly cycle them through just to develop buzz. You're doing these other random one-off stuff is doing you no good.
And I will say, I mean, from a really vocal women's wrestling critic, I think that you nailed what the problem is. And I think that, honestly, I think that you gave AEW some really good feedback there. If they hear you on that, I think that what they need to do, you said it. At this stage, and this is what I was trying to emphasize, and you said it in more succinctly than me, but at this stage, the women's division has fallen so far behind that we don't know who is the backbone. We don't know who the stars are. We don't have that following, right? You got to remember for a long period of time at the beginning of this company, Riho was the focal point, and we poured a lot of attention into trying to build her up.
Where is she?
And she's gone. And I understand that AEW is in, a tough spot when it comes to like Thunder Rosa, who, big fan of as far as her ability in the ring. She's awesome on social media, incredibly great to her fans. She seems like an easy person to root for. She has a presentation that is second to none, right? Thunder Rosa is awesome, right? But she's part-time. We don't know what her status is with the company. Serena Deeb, she's an NWA superstar, the NWA Women's Champion. She's focused on your show more often than Nyla Rose has recently.
Right.
Serena Deeb is somebody who, again, we feel like you could put her out there and she could have great matches every week. Is she going to develop into a star? We don't know, but she's certainly not going to do that if you only show her once every couple weeks, and for me, I understand that you have to diversify the division.
For sure.
But there comes a point when you recognize who your bankable stars are, and you need to establish them first.
Yes.
And then you'll start to care about who cares if somebody beats Anna Jay if Anna Jay isn't established as an important character, right?
True.
Pick a few characters in your women's division and focus them regularly and build them up. Britt Baker, without question, would be a choice. Nyla Rose, without question, would be a choice for different reasons. Each of them brings something different to the table. Shida has proven as champion that she deserves a spot at the table, right? If you have a contract situation with Thunder Rosa, great. Anna Jay is somebody who we'd like to see more of on television. She certainly has a character that has some interest to her. Her involvement with the Dark Order would instantaneously give fans something to latch onto. Abaddon, I know she had a recent injury, but that is a character that is interesting and unique. You want to hear more about.
Buzz.
Pick a few and build on them.
Right.
And then then go worry about filling in the cracks later on. But if you don't have the right foundation set, you're never going to get your feet off the ground.
That's perfectly said.
I'm with you. I think you said it really well.
The women's division was more exciting when Britt Baker was sitting there in her wheelchair and Big Swole was antagonizing her. That was more exciting than the matches that they've been putting on. And honestly, it created more buzz. And so I agree with that. And it's really surprising that Shida was not featured after retaining this title by an ex-champ. Like, you're not even shown on Dynamite. Like, that was a huge miss in my opinion.
That's a big, SPD, you're coming.
I'm a hard critic on the women's division.
You and the women. No, dude, this is all good feedback, though. Right? I mean, that's something I didn't even think about, right? You have John Moxley on the show. You have Eddie Kingston on the show. You have Kenny Omega. You have all these guys who came off of big matches yesterday. Everybody. You had Cage. You had Cody. You had Allen. You had all these characters that came off of that show. Now, yes, you didn't see the Young Bucks, but
we saw him briefly in the backstage, but you didn't even get they didn't even show a package of her. They should have shown a package.
Nothing about their women's champion defeating Nyla Rose.
Yeah, I don't get it.
It doesn't make sense. You're right. And where's that building of Shida's star, right? You've clearly invested in her as far as her win-loss record.
Yep.
Her reign as champion. She's beat Thunder Rosa. She's beat Nyla Rose. You clearly have established that you're behind her.
Right.
But then there's no follow-up at all on the next show coming off that pay-per-view. It would have been great to hear from our women's champion. It would have been great to see her, right? So
it doesn't have to be much, but just something.
I think that you nailed your assessment of the women's division. I think that the division would only get better if they listened to SPD more.
I'm hoping. Being a tough critic, I'm hoping for the best. I'm not anti it. I just want the best that they can deliver.